Welcome back. This is Aquarium Hacks by Marcus. Yes, for the first time, my face is on camera at the full term. I usually don't show my face on camera because I'm not in this to get popular or any popularity. I mean, compared to these other fish keepers on YouTube, they have huge, viewings and and things like that, and they have products get sent to them and all that kind of stuff. I myself personally really don't care too much about that, because in that way that gives me the freedom just to tell you exactly how I keep my tanks without trying to uplift one product or trying to downgrade another product. I mean, if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. I mean, it is what it is. There's a big controversy right now out about water changes and whether you can do them or not do them and stuff like that. And I won't tell you the truth, I've done them both. I've had tanks that had like 20 or 30 like emerald rasboras, and a 40-gallon breeder with like 20 pygmy cories, a ton of red shrimp, ghost shrimp, a ton of snails, and I had a bunch of guppy grass in it. And I had, a filtration running on it, and I had a few golden pothos in the back, just a few other little plants in the back that didn't really do too good because of the guppy grass. And on that tank, honestly, I didn't really have to do any water changes because the plants took up the nitrates, and the filter was taking care of the nitrites, and the ammonia converted it to a food source that the plants could take up. And I did not have to do any water changes hardly in that tank at all. Sometimes I did it just because I thought it was, I got bored and I just want to have a little fun with the tank, right? So I did some maintenance and I did some water changes on it. But honestly, it didn't need any water changes. Didn't hardly have any algae in it, of course, and none of that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so, and now I've, of course, moved on from heavily stocked Planet tanks to what you guys have seen on my videos earlier, to Lake Tanganyika cichlid tanks. And of course, I've done cichlid tanks in the past. I've done Mbuna tanks, peacocks, South American. Okay, I've done many different types of fish tanks in times past. I've been in this hobby for about 30 years, so I've done many types of freshwater tanks. And in those Mbuna tanks and those cichlid tanks, the nitrates were all the way high. I mean, there was probably 80 plus nitrates, maybe 100 sometimes, and I did my water changes on those, probably about once a week. I would do I don't think I did too big of water changes. It was a 75-gallon tank, and I did probably about, probably 10 gallons, 15 gallons, something like that on those tanks. And I want to tell you something, the nitrates never killed my fish. Sorry about that, but the nitrates never killed my fish. My fish wasn't stunted from the growing. I mean, I don't know about this, hormone thing that a fish shoots out in the tank that keeps other fish from growing. I don't know about that. All I know is that my fish never died from high nitrates. Never have. I've done my water changes and stuff like that. Now, in my Planet tank, my nitrates have gotten so low that I've actually had to add nitrates to the tank, meaning I had to kind of dirty it up a little bit, add some new nutrition in there, plant nutrition and stuff like that, because low to zero nitrates is not healthy or good for your plants. And so your plants won't thrive well if they don't have any food to eat off of. And so that's what I did in those tanks, because the nitrates was just at zero, Now the present tanks that I have now are Lake Tanganyika tanks, and I do small water changes on those once a week. I want to tell you the truth, on this 90-gallon, and I'll show you right here, this 90-gallon, which I'm going to update you soon about that, that Seachem 55, what it's doing. But this 90-gallon, I do no more than maybe once a week, maybe 10 gallons of water, right, to change the water out. All I do is about 10 gallons. But on this tank, I got a few little scraggly plants over here. I've got my favorite plant, the golden pothos, that is probably helping out. I've got some pretty deep substrate, and it's not heavily overstocked. And I've got good filtration on it, so I don't have to do that heavy of water changes. Now, if I had, a bunch of fish in here, that was big poopers and stuff like that, I probably would have to do larger water changes. But I don't have that many fish in here, and so I don't have to do that many water changes. Even when I did have a lot of fish like the Mbuna, I didn't do that big of a water changes. I mean, I would water change, you know, a little bit here and in there, but you know, of course, you know, to keep the water fresh and stuff like that. And what was interesting back then, when I did my water changes on my Mbuna tank, I would do those water changes. I would have the rocks, I would take out the rocks and I would vacuum. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't vacuum my substrates anymore. I have a lot of MTS snails, and I don't know what the deal is with it, but I just don't have to vacuum my substrates anymore. So, matter of fact, on this 40 gallon, and I'll show you here real quick. On this 40 gallon, hopefully it's good enough coming on camera. Let me take a look, see if it's on camera good. Not too good. Let me adjust it a little bit. But on this 40 gallon breeder, I've had this going for, probably 7, 8 months, maybe 9 months. Haven't vacuumed one time the bottom of the sand. Why don't I have to vacuum? One thing, these Sheldras, multifasciatus, are huge diggers. And I have a ton of MTS snails, which I actually catch and get rid of from time to time. And I don't have to vacuum the sand, the substrate at all. Haven't vacuumed in, like I said, 7, 8 months. And on the tanks, my planted tanks that I had previous to this, I never vacuumed the substrate. Now what I do, like this one, I change out, like the bigger one, I change out about 3 gallons of the water, 3 or 4 gallons of the water once a week. But then again, like I said, this is mostly heavily populated, you know, with, you know, several. Now there's a lot of cichlids in here, but they're small though, so my nitrates don't get very high in this tank either, even with all the snails and everything. So again, I'm using golden pothos on that. So let's get the camera back on me again. Oh, okay. Anyway, so that's my take on it. You know, it's according to what, you know, is this, I guess it's just according to what a person wants to do, really. You know, I mean, I just tested both of these tanks today, and it was excellent. I did a water change last week. I mean, you know, so, but just from my experience and from me keeping fish for a long time, I have gotten to the point now where I do not vacuum the gravel or the sand substrate. Now I keep MTS snails, like I said, and I always keep a ton of snails. And for the most part, if you ask me, those snails is really doing a good job in just keeping things turned over in that sand. And so I don't vacuum the sand. I just don't vacuum the sand or the gravel. I just don't do it. I change the water out, but I just don't vacuum it. I guess I just don't need to. Fish never died, never had any disease or anything like that. No major outbreak or anything. I mean, I've dealt with disease in times past, but here recently, really nothing, you know, major. And so that's just that. Now, when you think about the lakes, and I'm going to do this because I know this video is getting quite long, and everybody don't want to see my face for another 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to make this short. But anyway, if you think about the lakes, like Lake Tanganyika, Lake Malawi, Lake Victoria, okay? Those lakes, for the most part, don't have a lot of plants. Now, there might be some plant growth in some parts of the lake, such as Jungle Val, Valneria, or we just call it Jungle Val, maybe some other types of plants, maybe a few. But how do those lakes stay functioning and so healthy and so clear? There are two reasons why three actually, why those lakes stay so clear and so nice and so well balanced. First reason is they have a lot of rocks, and on those rocks grows tons and tons of algae. And I'm going to get into that on a later video, why I would like a lot of algae on my rocks. But in those lakes grow tons and tons of algae on the rocks. I mean, it's just matted on the rocks. Algae, in essence, is a single cell plant. Single cell plant that takes up, nutrients like a regular plant does. And it also gives off oxygen as well. And it does function just like plants do. It provides food and bacteria, microorganisms for the fish to eat. It just does wonders for the lake. Number 2, the sand in the lake is very, very deep. Having the right kind of conditions for anaerobic, or I'm not saying it right, but anyway, it has a lot of it has a lot of great things working for it, for the bacteria in that sand. Okay. Third thing that lake has, it has a large water flow. So it has large water flow going back and forth, a lot of oxygen. So when you take into consideration large mats of algae on the rocks, deep sand substrate in the lakes, large water flow, you have now got an ecosystem that is working extremely well in those lakes. We can imitate that in our African cichlid tanks to a degree. We can't do it exactly like it does out in nature, but we can imitate it to a degree. And so I've been trying to mess around with that a little bit and seeing how that'll work. And so that's just my take on African cichlid tanks and why I am a guy that's natural and that would like stuff like algae thick on my rocks, a lot of algae on my rocks, and about the sand bed and stuff like that. Don't want algae on my glass or on my plants, but a lot of algae, yes, even hair algae on my rocks. And so maybe I'll get into that a little bit later on. But anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit to you guys in person. This is Marcus with Aquarium Hacks. Hey, keep on hacking.